And good morning, everyone. I'm Jennifer Britton, one half of the Remote Pathways podcast. It is November the 5th, 2020, and I'm super excited for our first of two November monthly community calls. How you doing this morning, Michelle?
Waking up with joy. Glad to be here because Jennifer Grody is back with us at the virtual table. Yay!
Yay! It's so wonderful to welcome all of you, whether you are here with us live, and we have people dialing in from all over the world. So, welcome to you, and welcome back to you, Jennifer G, as we move into officially season 2 of the Remote Pathways podcast. It's hard to believe that a year ago, Michelle, you and I launched this, and wow, the world has changed, but our conversations get even more rich and diverse, hence the name Remote Pathways. I think we're all seeing very different paths into this world of remote work, whether we're calling it remote work, digital work, online work, virtual work. That's one of my sort of explorations in the fall of 2020. And super excited, Jen G, to have you back. You've been a key voice in this conversation. I know people loved our first episode with you, and yesterday we just released your second episode. So, with that, Michelle, do you want to set us up for today's call?
Yes, and just noting again that episode that was just released with Genji yesterday, it was all about wellness in the workspace and some of those tips. And there was a free download that was located with that. I encourage you to download that. This is actually, we're going to be jumping into a little bit of that activity today on our call. So I encourage you, if you're watching this video, go back to Remote Pathways, listen to the fabulous episode, and download.
Excellent. And just I'll get you to refresh what are the exact steps. They want to go to remotepathways.com. And is it over on the downloads page or the podcast page?
It would be on the podcast page. I would actually encourage you to go to our podcast guest page because then you'll find everything together, the download, the episode, and a way to connect with Genji.
Fantastic. Well, as our podcast has grown, our pages keep growing. So we want to make sure you can navigate around. Well, we keep coming back to the basics, right? Part of great remote work, part of great virtual conversations is distilling down to the core. That's been my fall theme. I wrote about it years ago, but it's even more important right now. And with that, we're going to bring everyone into the room. So, another fantastic exercise that Michelle has pulled together. Michelle, over to you. Let's get you to lead us through this grounding exercise for us this morning.
Yes, just to prepare your hearts for the conversation that we're going to have and the activity that's coming up. It's all going to be about wellness. And so I thought we'd just kick things off with what does wellness mean for you? So just take a moment and look at these pictures just to spark some ideas and pick one or more of what wellness means to you. And then let us know. Let's go around the virtual table. And if it's not there, add to it. We always enjoy that. So, Jennifer B., what would you say? What does wellness mean for you?
Well, I have to say we're having like a this wonderful autumn-like, summer-like weather at the beginning of November here in Toronto, which is unique. So I'm gonna pick the walkers because even though we had snow on the ground the other day, I could get out yesterday and just enjoy the day. So wellness for me means like moving as much as being in dialogue. So I'm going to pick the walkers in the middle and also that the heart of the friendship and the multicolored brain sparks. I think it's also about activating our brain, our heart, our body, and our connections. So thank you. These are great photos today, Michelle.
Glad you like. Glad you like. Thanks for sharing. And how about you, Melissa? What's jumping off the page for you?
Oh my goodness. They're all really great pictures. So thank you for that. I was trying to think if there was something creative that would come to me because I think it's really, I mean, wellness is multifaceted. And so it's really hard to pick one because, if we're out of balance in one area, then that area becomes more important, right? Or it becomes or we may be just very good at one area of wellness, but and it's important to us, but we have to remember those other areas that might be getting neglected. So but wellness has to do with joy and anchoring. That just came to me. So it has to do with being anchored in knowing, what you need and when, and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, so we can take care of others, meaning our business clients, our family. So that's what I would say. Wellness is being anchored so that we can know what our balance is each and every day, and for every season.
So, so much rich wisdom there, Melissa. That was so good. And Jennifer G, your heart just has to be exploding, right?
I think you took the words right out of my mouth, Melissa. Because I love all these pictures that you chose, Michelle, because I could not agree more, Melissa, that wellness is multifaceted. And I think I might have even said it on the podcast. You know, I think it's really evolved. It's not something that you go and do, right? It's not like a workout and then you got your wellness, component in, although working out is a huge piece of it. It's really a way of life that I'd like to encourage people to think about. And it's a way of thinking. It's a way that you feel, process your emotions. It's a way that you are in your body and with others, what you put into your body, what you put into your mind. So I love all the pictures.
I'm choosing all of them. I love it.
So Michelle, we get to ask you, which one are you embracing, or which ones are you embracing today?
I think I'm all, but I always start in that bottom right corner. I guess it's the right hand side on your screen. Just those moments, those quiet spaces to connect with my heart on the inside. That's always the starting place. And then the wellness vision kind of grows from there. So, yeah, thanks for playing. Thanks for playing. And for those of you listening later, let us know, what does wellness mean for you? So, where are we going to next, NB?
Well, we are going to just bring us back to the roadmap, right? As much as things can be very complex, key to getting traction in the remote space is simplification. And so we want to bring you back to the roadmap we've been on throughout 2020. So we started the year looking at one of the 6 main elements of PlanDoTrack, which is let's get focused. Q2 was all about experimentation. And it's interesting how that was sort of our April through June period. And I think as many of us reflect on April through June, it was about experimentation, trying to figure out how could we navigate potentially a new world or a re-envisioned world. And then in Q3, June through September, we looked at motivation. What motivates you? And certainly our drivers are all a little different, just as diverse as those photos that we just talked about. We are now in Q4 into that reflective phase. I'm excited for our remaining podcast episodes. And I would say, as someone who works in the area of productivity in the virtual space, it's an interesting time of year, right? Typically at this time of year, we'd be like, what's your vision for next year? And I think we still need to do that, but acknowledge that planning productivity is meaning something different today in the end of 2020 as it might have been at the end of this time last year. So we will be doing some reflective pauses. If you didn't look at our last mid-October call, we did a fall reflective just to help people ground. That's something you could do at any time of the year, but also coming up, we will be doing a bit of a visioning session. Even if vision no longer means 10 years down the road, just even 3 months down the road. What's your vision? What are you aiming towards? So that's a little bit of our philosophy and our track that we're on. Again, as we step into season 2 of this podcast, we've got a lot of exciting guests that will take us in and out of these, even some further like offshoot side roads. And Michelle and I have been busy in the last few weeks and months actually starting those interviews and those conversations. And Jen G, you're part of our segue into our second season. So thanks for being with us, Jen G, and people like Melissa that have shown up on a consistent basis. We hope that this is becoming part of your everyday world. And again, it's never been more important to have these virtual water cooler conversations. So Michelle, what do you want to say about our last call? Because there was also some other interesting elements that we looked at last time we were together.
I always look forward to how our community calls connect with one another. And I feel like that one, we did some of the values in a different, with a different perspective. It was about what's here now, what's present before you. And this month with Jennifer G, we're about to segue into Wellness Vision. And I'm remembering, Genji, you were our very first guest on season 1, and now you're taking us into season 2. Like, how awesome is that? That activator, your activator strength showing up. So
I know.
So we're going to pass the baton to you. For those of you who don't know, and Jennifer, please correct me because it's early in the morning. You are a Strengths Champion certified coach and a nationally board certified integrative health coach and a mindfulness practitioner. You just bring a wealth of knowledge to the virtual table here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here. And yeah, I didn't even realize that I had kicked off season 1 and now season 2. So I love it when there's that synchronicity, right? And things are happening, we don't even know it. Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the component, one of the 3 components that I tend to focus on was strengths, emotional intelligence, and wellness. And even though we're going to talk about wellness, the other 2 are going to be in there as well, right? Because they're very integrated into what I call holistic success. And so I love that you picked out all those different pictures and said, what does wellness mean to you? Because that's a really important place to start. In the download, the 5 keys for well-being, it starts with vision. And we really explore, what does wellness mean to you? Because it's going to be different for everybody. There are components that we know lead to health and well-being, but then there are also going to be things that are very unique to the person that you are.
So true. Well said.
Thank you. So do you want me to just kind of continue on?
Because you mentioned the download. So this is actually a component from the download that we're actually expanding upon, right? We're so excited that you're going to lead us through this activity today. So yes, we pass the baton to you. Please guide our steps.
Great. So with the 5 keys, the very first step or the first key is vision. And, sometimes when we talk about vision, I know for me, I can get overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have this big grand vision, and so I think there's lots of different ways that you can get at it. And I sometimes work backwards, where I think about, okay, you could do it in a day, you could do it for a week. So imagine it's the end of a really good day, or a really good week. And you think, I did all the things that are really important to me, including my health, right? I didn't sacrifice my mental, emotional, and physical well-being. What happened? What happened this week? What was I able to accomplish? And so you just start kind of playing through that, and what you'll start to recognize as you list those things is values will start to emerge. So I did this exercise myself. And as I was going through, I said, oh, well, I would learn something new. I would serve others well. I would accomplish something that was maybe a little hard for me. I would eat healthy and exercise at least 3 times a week. I would connect with my faith and with God, and I would connect with others. So that I kind of those just came off, they flew out, so to speak. And then, so as I went through, I went, okay, so, health is important to me, learning, accomplishment, connection. And then I actually kind of wrote those out, and that gave me a roadmap similar to what, Jen Britton with the quarterly focuses. It gave me a roadmap that I could look back and see, how did I do today? Did I hit those markers? And maybe I didn't do it today, but okay, I'll give myself some time tomorrow, right? So you give yourself kind of a little bit of wiggle room. But as you go through the process, if you know what's important to you and you know what that looks like, it gives you a place to aim.
I love that, Jen. I think that's so important in current context, where for many of us, and depending on when you listen to this, there might be a lot of swirling waters around you. Yes. So, if we can, again, distill down to the core and get into what's really important, those can serve as those anchors. And I love I love this exercise. I don't know. I went ahead of the curve, of course, and I just jotted down my list. But this is so useful. This is really, really useful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it only takes a little bit of time, right? But because, the visioning, it can be so overwhelming. But if you just sit down and think, what would be a really fantastic day or a really fantastic week? What are all the things that would happen? Oh, and it's kind of exciting. It's like, unwrapping gifts. So like, oh, I talked to so-and-so and, oh, I'd go for a walk with my husband or, and I'd make a sale and, just all these things that this would be a highlight week. And then, okay, well, how could you fit those in, right? You start walking through the steps. And, I try to say, don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning and try to figure all them out. Maybe pick one or two things, if you're not currently doing all these things and begin trying, okay, how could I implement that this week? And then you start to walk through the steps, right? So the planning, where and when could I do this, right? What's, and even asking yourself, this is a good one too. Why is this important to me? Because sometimes as you start this visioning exercise, I have 3 to 5, but all of a sudden you might have like 10 things and be like, how do I choose? But if you ask yourself, like, why is this important to me? And then you also say, well, if I could only do 1 or 2 of these things, what would it be? Right? You kind of help yourself navigate, and that will help you to kind of prioritize. And then communication is a big one, which is, who do you need to talk to about this? So all of us, we're living in this new world right now, and there's a lot of moving parts. And, if we decide to start making changes, it will impact the people around us, who you live with. And this step, I often forget. I might plan to go to, the gym this afternoon. And then, Jeff calls, he has no idea. And he calls and says, oh, hey, you want to go on a ride with me for such and all of a sudden now I've got this competing thing. I never told him, I didn't share with him, right? So the more that you can share and talk to people about, your plan and what you're doing, the better able they are to adapt and give you that time and space to do what you planned. I'm going to pause now and see what questions or comments you guys have.
I heard so many things. I heard the communicate. I heard the anchoring, like Melissa shared, and I heard the why, and I immediately thought of Jennifer B's, was it 5 W's and an H or something?
5 W's and an H. The who,
yeah.
what, why, where, when, how.
So many principles that were coming up and everything that you shared, Jennifer.
I don't know if you guys can see on my bottom of my page that I have written. I have what, why, who, how. Brains are insane.
Yeah, minds think alike.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in and actually just on that nature, like you called it synchronicity, but it's a congruence, right? I think, again, in times of disruption, which is 2020, we want to find those things that are congruent, that are similar, that are consistent. And in all of our comments today, I've been hearing how important it is to get that rhythm, get that cadence going with all of this. So I think you've asked us some great questions there. And for people who are listening in, like invitation, go through these. Like I've just jotted them down as you've taken us through this, because these could be a great litmus test at the end of every day or even every week, right? We don't have to do it daily, to just say, how did it go? And like, why? Like, was I focusing on my why, or was I getting pulled into the eddies of life, which is natural, right? It's really natural, but how do we also negotiate so that we ensure that these values are present even at some level? Because I think if we don't, like, and maybe you're going to talk to this, Jennifer, like one of the questions is, how might you honor each of your values? But what happens when we're conflicted with our values? What happens if we are pulled into something where it actually contradicts our values?
Yeah, the values conflict. Yeah, it is difficult. And I think, each situation is going to be a little bit different, right? But Jen, I love how you say, even spreading it out a little bit. that's part of that experimentation. Like maybe you start with, today I'm going to get all these things. And then, you feel like a failure if you didn't. Well, maybe you shot a little too high, and that's okay. That's why we're experimenting, right? So what does it look like in a week? What if we pull that out, right? And also, negotiating, right? Are you able to get a part of it? And, maybe you couldn't do the thing that you had. Maybe you planned to go to the gym and do a specific class for an hour, and you couldn't do that. Well, could you get out and walk for 15 minutes, right? Is there a way that you can honor that value? And it's kind of like, I'm thinking of Avatar right now. When they say, "I see you" in the movie Avatar. And it's almost like telling your value, "I see you. And I'm honoring you today. It's not exactly the way that I wanted, but I'm holding that sacred space. It might only be 5 minutes today, but I'm acknowledging that this is important to me, and I'm giving it some space and time in my life. And I'm working on figuring out how to have more, and towards that vision and that goal."
And thank you for like giving space to that, because I think for some of our listeners right now, depending on where they are in the world, like we have multiple places that have either just gone back into lockdown or are entering lockdown. And I think what I hear with coaching clients is just how challenging that is to honor, the collective experience, but be true to yourself. And so, in our area, we've had 3 weeks of lockdown. I couldn't swim. Right, the pool was open and then it was closed. Now it's opening again. So how do we honor the collective health, quote unquote, the better good, the greater good, but also ensure that our values are being met? And every place in the world is really different right now. And so I think our listeners are probably all coming at this from a different layer. So notice values conflict can be meta level, societal level, and it could be individual level right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think that we can often, myself included, become very, black and white in our thinking. It's like either I do this or I failed, and finding a way to have a little bit more, just some compassion and some adaptability with your goals, especially in these times, and really all the time, is that how can I be flexible? How can I still have a win here, even when things get a little bit wonky and you have competing demands? Is there a way to still honor it, even if it's not the original way?
There's so much happening right now. Because I've spent so much time with you and in the mojo way of life, Jennifer G, the more that I notice that those 9 habits are really birthed out of the values that you hold. It is your way of life and way of being. I hear celebration and that holy noticing and the self-care and all those things. You kind of dance through those different habits, but they truly reflect your values in action, as it's well said. Melissa, what are you hearing around the virtual table this morning from what the two Jennifers have shared?
The 2 Jens and the Michelle.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad that I got up early here in Costa Rica. It was only an hour. Usually we're 2 hours difference. So this is going to be easier for the next bit. And we got a little, we got a little storm here. And so it's been raining for a week. So it's been interesting, but normally it's sunny, right? And so, but I just love this. And if Jennifer G, what you and I had a lot of the same on the Strengths Finder. So, it's very easy for me to listen along. We both have that. I have connection, which is Michelle, and I growth and all of these. And so it's amazing, but it's just so good to get this reminder today of start with the end in mind, which was one of the habits in the Stephen Covey book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that you and I both love. And just to do that simple exercise and the way that you've packaged it of imagining, and even at the end of your, beginning of your week, or to do both, the reflection and then go into that next week as well and have both sides of it. But I just love that. I love that we can just have that grace and say, okay, it's midway through the day. I'm not feeling so balanced because I missed this and missed that, and I didn't quite start right. But what can I do now, even to end the day right? And just sort of have those those moments where you anchor back and say, okay. And but it does start with that visionary exercise before, because it's really hard to do it midstream. So this is just a simple way that I'm going to start implementing again ASAP in this beautiful way that you've packaged. So it really is incredible, and I think more people need to hear it.
Yeah. And Melissa, and the download, that reviewing and reflecting and reset. I think I didn't have it on here. Maybe I did, but I think just to write down like what went well this week and take time to take notes, because I think we'll be surprised often how many good things happened. And if we just let a week go by, and it's like habit 9, that celebration, they just start adding up. But if we don't take that intentional pause to write it down, we actually might focus on what didn't go well, right? That one or two things that we forgot or didn't, they kind of grow big in our mind, and we forgot all of these other things that actually went really well, moments of connection and conversation. And so I highly encourage that last step too, that reflection.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's so important, right? And then that just kind of gives you the strength and the confidence and the resolve to say, hey, this is great. I want more of this.
Yes.
So yeah.
Loving this conversation. This is going to be part of my wellness. At the end of the day, this is going to be something that I'm celebrating, and this is this community call. So thank you. Thank you, Jen G, for just walking us through that exercise. Very valuable. Very valuable. We appreciate you greatly for taking the time to be with us.
So big shout out. Make sure you head on over to that guest page at remotepathways.com and download Jennifer's, worksheet and schedule some time to do this on a regular basis at the start of the week and the end of the week. And Jen G, what a great way to kick us off into season 2, because season 1, we covered a lot of terrain, but, really pertinent and valuable. And to Melissa's point, listeners, share this with your networks, right? Like, even if you don't consider yourself a remote worker right now, all of us are working remote, or a majority of us are working remote. So I'm sure there will be something that catches your eye. Over actually at our Facebook page, at our Remote Pathways Facebook page, I got a little alert that the soundbite that Michelle had uploaded was like one of our toply viewed videos in the recent weeks. So I think people are listening for and looking for wellness in the remote space. So I hope that you'll pass this on. Definitely, Jennifer, are there some ways that you want to direct people to your website? What would you like to say about where people can find you?
Yeah, you can go to Jennifer Grote, that's GROTE.com. And there's a Calendly link on there if you just want to schedule a quick call. You can find out more information about me. Michelle and I, we are doing strength seminars in the corporate realm. We're doing them virtually, and we do incorporate mindfulness and wellness into those. So lots of ways to connect. You can also find me on Facebook, Jennifer Grote Coaching.
Fantastic.
Yes, and that's jennifergrotecoaching.com to find
Thank you, Jennifer Grote Coaching.
That's right. Hey, it's pre-coffee, so you're good.
I'm halfway through the first cup.
Well, that is about our time. Again, like, time flies when you're having fun. We are continuing to move throughout the year. We are almost at the end of our 52 weeks series. One of the more recent ones was this whole notion of keep it simple. You've heard me reframe it today as like distill it to the core. That's actually part of my new body of work and the standout virtually. We've got a great conversation sparker, which is Michelle.
Let's carry this conversation forward. What's your wellness vision? Ask your friends. Who's around your virtual table?
Fantastic. And again, we hope that you're enjoying these conversation sparkers as we step into our second season. Our theme last time, which I think is so important to wellness, is just be here now. be here now. Be present with whatever is now. And I see how that impacts that statement just made people pause for a moment. So be here now. We hope that you will be back with us in a couple of weeks for our second call of the month. Coming up as our next episode, which we'll release in 13 days, episode 25, a year in review, celebrating season 1 of the Remote Pathways podcast. And I have to say, Michelle, what a journey we've been on. It's been such a pleasure to enjoy the main road, the offshoots, the all the places that we would have never imagined conversations would take us, but have taken us. And I really so enjoy our partnership. So a big acknowledgement to what, you know, together we've been able to create and put out into the world. And you'll hear more, I think, in our next call of some of those celebrations, right? Like we start any creative journey with a bit of a like, ooh, well, maybe this is what could happen. And here we are now at the 1-year mark, being able to say, okay, this is what has happened. And these are the seeds that are planted for future. So Michelle, as always, I'm going to leave you with opportunity to close us out.
Oh, well, heart hugs right back to you. Thank you for the invitation to explore these remote pathways. Pure joy in my heart. And just thank you all the listeners for joining us. And we hope to continue the conversation. Let's hit that remote road together. Bye, my friends.
Bye, everyone. And thank you again, Jen G and Melissa. Always great to see you.
Congratulations on your 1 year.
Ah, thank you.
Congratulations. You guys rock. You girls rock.
Thank you.
We do rock. We'll take that moment to say, yeah, it's a big accomplishment, right?
It
like
really
it's
is.
and it's an honor to be part of the voice of this landscape that has become part of everyday culture for so many of us. So share the word. If you are just finding us now, like pass it on. We hope that you'll enjoy it. We look forward to your feedback, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at half an hour later at 7:30 for our next call.
That's something to celebrate.
That's half an hour sweetness. All right, everyone. Take
Bye.
care. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, Melissa.